Hey guys, it's Goosebumps Completionist, and today I'm bringing you another TV book review from the Goosebumps Presents series. And this is TV book number 11, Let's Get Invisible. So, in case you don't know how the TV book reviews go on around here, I like to do the TV books a little bit different from the regular book reviews that you normally see on the channel. In the TV book reviews, a 5 out of 5, right, means that it's a perfect adaptation of the episode. Because these are really, what these serve to be are supplements for TV episodes back in the day. Because for some reason, syndication didn't play reruns all the time. So kids would gravitate towards these to read these instead of watching the episode because they didn't have them on home media or whatnot. And that's pretty much the trend on these TV books. If they didn't have a VHS release in America or something, they got these. So a 5 out of 5 would be like a perfect adaptation to the episode. There's really no differences. It's spot on, perfect. And the lower the score means the more interesting the book is. So that means that it's not all that faithful of an adaptation of the episode. And this one is going to be one of the ones that just aren't it's very close. But there's certain scenes added, there's certain things different, there's even different names used. There's enough differences here to make this one very interesting. And if you've seen the episode and maybe you want to check out the TV book, off the bat, I would recommend this because this has differences from the episode that make this worth checking out. It's very intriguing. So, yeah, this TV book was collected, adapted by Megan Stein, and it's from the teleplay by Charles Laser. Even though the episode was said in the episode that was written by Rick Drew, I don't know if those two are the same people, but yeah. Anyways, let's get into the plot review of this thing without giving too much away. So, in the TV book, normally you get more of a narration compared to the episode that it's adapting. You start off with Max. Max is in the attic with his friend Aaron. And Aaron's about to get all these boxes toppled over her like we saw in the episode. And Max goes to save her and stops the boxes from falling on top of her. And he gets a red shoe thrown at him. And, you know, he makes a joke. And then they hear these noises coming from this cupboard nearby. And they go to inspect this cupboard. And they open it up. And they're not fooled because they know that it's, you know, Max's little brother Noah. And they're trying to scare them with a mask on. And they tell Noah to get lost, and Max chucks the shoe at Noah. Noah catches it with his left hand, saying lefties rule, and throws the shoe back at Max, and he catches it but knocks stuff back, and it knocks down this, it's like a domino effect. It knocks down something, then something else, and eventually the last item hits the wall, the attic wall, and busts a hole in it, a little tiny hole. And Max is really upset with Noah. And Noah's like, well, I didn't do it. You know, it was your fault. So they go over to inspect the hole. And Noah's like, look, it's fine. And he accidentally makes the hole bigger. Unlike the episode where Noah just sees this big hole and just decides to go in it. But, you know, Max scolds Noah for making the hole bigger. And he decides to look because he sees some light coming in from the other side. So he looks in. And he sees something faint. He's like, there's something in here. Help me make this hole bigger. So he asks Aaron and Noah to make the hole bigger. And they do that. And they get inside the room. And when they get inside the room, they're looking for a light. And, of course, Aaron spots a light by the mirror. So Max goes to turn it on. And says he feels tingleish. And he feels like all these electricity might be going through his body or something. He feels very weird. And of course Aaron and Lefty say, Max, where did he go? He's gone. Max like, I didn't I'm here. And he turns the light off, and he's back, visible again. And Aaron and Lefty tell him that he turned invisible. And he's like, "Oh, really?" And they're like, "This is so cool." And like, maybe we should make this our new hideout. And Max is like, "Okay, don't tell anybody, and we can hang out up here and play around with this thing." So when everybody's about to leave, Max turns and looks behind the mirror and sees that the cord's unplugged and that there's no power to the mirror. So, unlike the episode, the next scene after this, when they all leave the attic, is when Max gargling, mouthwash, and he's looking in the bathroom in the mirror at himself in the episode. But here he's laying in bed, and he's thinking about the electrical supply to the mirror. He's like, well, how can the mirror operate without electricity? How can the light turn on? Is this mirror magic? And he's so wrapped up in his thoughts, it's late at night, he grabs his flashlight and decides to head up to the attic. And he goes up to the attic, kind of similarly in the episode, and he, more in depth here, inspects behind the mirror and looks at the mirror and sees how old it is and how weird it looks. It gives him a creepy feeling. And then he gets spooked by his little brother, Noah, who comes up behind him with his flashlight. And, Noah's like, let's get invisible. And the two get invisible, like the episode. And Noah does the whole putting the sheet over his head, acting like a ghost. And then they both start to feel ill, so they, turn the light back off. And they get back to being visible. And Max is more intrigued by how the mirror makes him feel than the episode lets on. He starts to kind of question it, but he's like, hey, we'll figure this out as we go. And he's like, hey, don't touch, and he tells Noah not to touch the mirror without other people around. And Noah's like, okay, I get it. And he's also like, Noah's like, I know you probably want to tell mom and dad about this since the mirror doesn't make us feel good, but why don't we just have some time with it before we tell mom and dad? And Max agrees and says, okay, well, let's find out what the issues are, and then we could tell our parents. So the next day comes, and Zach, Max's best friend, is over, and so is his friend Aaron. And, of course, the whole scene with Zach showing his earring is there, and his mom leaves to go out and do something, and the kids decide to go up to the attic and mess around with the mirror and show Zach the mirror. And they get up there, and Zach's like, this better be cool. You better not be pulling my pants leg about this. And Aaron and Noah and Max are like, oh, you're going to see. So he goes up to the mirror, tugs the light, and becomes invisible. And Zach's like, this is the coolest thing I've ever seen. And then it goes into this weird thing that's a bit different than the episode. So the episode, Max starts talking and he kind of drifts, and you see all the the other three kids wondering where Max is. But in the book, it's on Max's point of view, and you see him starting to hallucinate, going up to the mirror, touching the mirror, seeing all these lights, seeing really weird stuff. And then all of a sudden, like, he's falling into the mirror, and then at one point he's falling down in blackness and keeps falling and falling, and then he finally hits the bottom. And when he hits the bottom, he's back visible again. And his friends are like, what happened to you? What took you so long to get back? He's like, wait, I've been gone? And they're like, yeah, you've been gone. And then he explains it, and then it kind of goes back to where the episode's at. And he's like, something's wrong with this mirror. And Noah's like, well, why can't I use it? And he's like, no, something's wrong with the mirror. Maybe we shouldn't do this. And of course, I'm not sure if he went invisible with Aaron before this. Yeah, so he did go invisible with Aaron to show Zach, and they were tossing the ball before this happened, but kind of like the episode. But the way that other scene was handled was a bit different. So Noah, of course, makes a promise with his fingers crossed, like the book and the episode. And the next day, I guess the next scene, Max is coming home from baseball, and he asks his mom, "Where is everyone?" They're like, "Oh, they're upstairs in the attic waiting for you." So he goes up into the attic. Oh, wait, there's another scene I need to talk about. It's the whole kitchen scene at dinner after Zach and Aaron leave. There was another scene where Lefty goes off on his own. He gets invisible, and there's this whole thing that we saw in the episode as well, where he's down in the kitchen, invisible, while Max is eating dinner with his parents. Max is asking the question, "Is this house haunted? Did you ever, when you grew up in this house, because they live in the house that was one of his parents' childhood home that they bought the house from their grandparents?" And they're like, "Nah, nothing ever out of the ordinary happened here." And Max is like, "Okay." And then he starts seeing like bread rolls fly and a cup of milk being drinking. And he's like, "Okay, Noah's invisible." And he excuses himself, grabs some air, and his parents are like, "This is weird." And he starts dragging Noah back up to the attic, and Noah's kicking and screaming. And before they can get up to the attic, Noah disappears. And frantically, Max goes up to the attic to check on Noah and sees Noah there. And Noah's fine. The light is off. He's like, and Max is like, "Are you okay?" And he's acting kind of weird, but Noah's like, "Yeah, I'm fine." And he's like, "Stay away from the mirror." He's like, "No problem. I'll never touch it again." So now Max is like, on pretty much convinced that he's going to have to like get rid of the mirror, like somehow stop everybody from touching the mirror. Something's not right with the mirror. And then we cut to the baseball, and he comes home the next day, and he goes up he goes up to the attic, and he sees Aaron there, and his friend Zach is invisible. And Zach's hanging around. He's like, "This is so cool." And this really makes Max upset. He's like, "Turn the light off now. We need to destroy this mirror." And then, of course, Zach kind of goes, disappears. And Max is like, "Oh, let's turn the light off and let's get him back. Then we'll destroy the mirror." So when they turn the light off, Zach comes back. And like the episode, Zach may be a little bit different. And he starts attacking Max and forcing him to get under the light, and pulls the string. And when that happens, Max is instantly sent inside of the mirror, and he's freezing cold. He's like, "What's going on? Where am I?" And he looks out, and he sees his two Zach and Aaron outside of the mirror. And then he's greeted by this character that's not really named in the episode, but they go by Mirror Max. They call themselves Mirror Max. And Mirror Max is like, "Hi, I'm you, but backwards. I'm here to take your place." And Max is like, "No, you're not." He's like, "Yes, I am. So, stay here while I leave." And Max is like, "No." And so he darts off down this like weird metaphysical hallway. He's trying to open this door, and then it's like the episode where he sees the montage of mirrors and stuff, and ends up finding the real Zach trapped in a mirror. And he's really cold. He's freezing, and then he comes to, because Aaron manages to get the light turned off. And when he comes back, he's freezing cold, and Zach's like, "Okay, well, get up." And I guess Zach realized that, he's not Mirror Max, and he's like, "You're going back in the mirror." And Max is like, "No, he's Mirror Zach, Aaron. We need to get him back into the mirror right now." And Aaron's like, "What's going on?" As in the episode, Aaron was the one to kind of discover the earring thing, but Max in the book is the one to point this out instead. So they grab hold of Zach to get into kind of a tussle. He gets him in an arm bar and shoves him towards the mirror, which breaks the mirror and sucks Mirror Zach back into wherever he came from. And then the real Zach reappeared, kind of like the episode. So they think they defeated the mirror, and Noah comes up. He's like, "What's going on?" He's like, "Nothing. We're done with this mirror. We're never going to do this again." And everybody agrees. Then, of course, the ending happens when, kind of like the episode and the actual book, Max is in the kitchen with his little brother Noah, and he catches something, he throws something with his right hand, and Max looks over at him and he's like, wait a minute, you must be Mirror Noah. And something else happens, and that's where this little TV book ends. So, yeah, this is very close. There's a lot of things similar to the episode in this, but there's a bit of added stuff in here, like the added scene in the beginning that wasn't in the episode, with the whole debacle with Max and Lefty fighting. There's a couple of different changes here that I don't know if Ron Oliver, who directed the episode, or was it Rick Drew, or maybe even Megan Stein or Charles Laser, or whoever wrote this book. Maybe this was the original screenplay or something. I don't know. But there's pretty big differences in some scenes. One of the biggest changes I noticed was that whole scene when Max was doing the experiment scene, and he was by himself, and he was having that, like, I quote-unquote dream where he's falling into the mirror. You don't see that at all in the episode because of how the point of view is there. So there's a lot of added things here with Max's, like, point of view that you just don't get in the episode. And it makes me think that maybe they wanted to go into this episode doing Max's point of view, but they realized how hard that would be and how spoilerish that would be, because if they added that scene in the middle, you pretty much already know what to expect in the end when his friends eventually become who they are. So I can understand why this is cut out. But in the book, it's there, and it's kind of intriguing. There's also a couple of differences here, kind of smaller ones. Like in the episode, there's a light switch scene where Aaron pulls when Noah pulls the light switch when Max disappears. But in the book here, Zach shoves Noah out the way and then pulls the light switch. You know, it's stuff like that. And then the whole name concepts with the mirrors, like Mirror Zach, Mirror Max, Mirror Noah, it's not in the episode. And I feel like that's kind of a cool element to have in the book. They have these names. They recognize themselves as mirror people. I think that's kind of cool. The episode just doesn't mention that. So, yeah. Was this a good adaptation? Yeah, it was actually pretty dark. I honestly think that this is scarier than the episode because of the narration Max had. It felt more like the book. It felt more deeper. It felt more intimate. You got a monologue with Max. The writing is kind of choppy, surprisingly. Like, you know, I'm not really here to critique the writing all that much, but in the very beginning, you're in the middle of a scene, and all of a sudden, it just randomly cuts into Max talking about his background, his age. He declares his age to be 13, which, if you watch the episode and you look at his friend Zach, he looks like he's about 16 or 17. So, I don't know if he's 13 in the book. He might be 12, so that might be a cool little difference to add on there. But yeah, the writing was kind of weird in some places, but the scenes were great. I love Max's monologue, and it's different enough to come back to as an alternative to the episode, and I honestly like it more. But in rating this as an adaptation basis, right? Is it a great adaptation of the episode? It's close, but there's differences to the episode. It doesn't really serve its purpose all that much in being what it's trying to be. But I think it does make it more intriguing. So from a 0 to 5 star basis, for it being a spot-on adaptation, no. It has plenty of differences to make me knock this down a full point and give this about a 4 out of 5. But like I said, in the TV books, the lower the points, the more interesting the book. A 4 out of 5 for this. It's not all that faithful at all, but that means it's good. Go pick this up and try this out. I highly recommend it. So yeah, that's my thoughts on TV Book 11, Let's Get Invisible. Let me know down in the comments section if you have read this before. Do you love this? Do you hate this? I'm dying to know. And I'll see you next time.